Today's story is about a lawyer who claims his paralegal tried to poison him. Yes, poison him, you guys. This lawsuit is crazy. You guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new here. My name is Angela and I make videos about lawyer life, law school, and all things in between. Additionally, on this channel we have a segment called the Legal Breakdown Show where I do lawyer reviews, reactions, and analysis. So today's video is going to be another episode of the Legal Breakdown, and you guys, we have got a good one. It is crazy, it is juicy, and it's just full of a bunch of drama. As you guys saw in the title, today's story is about a lawyer who claims his paralegal tried to poison him. Yes, poison him, you guys. This lawsuit is crazy, okay? So let's go ahead and jump right in. The two main characters in the story is the attorney Arturo Guzman and his paralegal Ashley Zymanek. I think I'm saying that right, so we're just gonna call her Ashley. We're gonna call him Guzman, okay? Now bear with me, guys. I have my notes here because this is a lot, so I might be looking down. But Guzman is suing Ashley, his former paralegal, for a ton of stuff. That includes assault, battery, invasion of privacy, libel, slander, common law fraud, conversion, and breach of contract. So this case is based in Texas. Guzman is a Texas attorney who practices in San Marcos, Texas. Shout out to Texas State University. As some of you guys may already know, that's where I graduated from for undergrad. So shout out to Texas. Some of you guys might already know this too. I am originally a Texas attorney, so I am licensed to practice in Texas and did start my career there, even though I no longer reside in Texas. So shout out to Texas. Like I said, Guzman is suing Ashley, and we're going to be discussing the latest kind of court documents in this. This case is just heating up, okay? There's so much more to go. There hasn't been any determinations yet or anything, but essentially Guzman filed the case against Ashley, and then Ashley and her husband filed a motion to dismiss. It was denied. Ashley's attorney filed an appeal for the motion to dismiss. It was denied again, and we'll be talking more about that in today's video. This case is just starting to heat up, so we're going to be keeping track of this. So today we'll be talking about all the facts behind the case and the motion to dismiss and why it was denied, okay? Let's get into these facts, you guys. It is absolutely insane, okay? So like I said before, Ashley was Guzman's paralegal, but she was more than a paralegal to Guzman, okay? She was described as his ride or die, his right-hand woman, okay? She not only handled his law firm practice matters, she also handled his personal matters. So, you know, when you think of a paralegal, you think of filing, drafting some documents, basically like, you know, doing kind of all of the support work for an attorney. Ashley's role in Guzman's life was much more than that. First of all, she was the only employee at his law firm. She had been employed with him for 10 years, and she literally had access and handled everything. She was almost like, she was his work wife, right? And this is actually not uncommon, especially for our boomers and up generation. Their assistants, their secretaries usually are like their work wives. A lot of times they handle everything, they know everything. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. A lot of these more mature attorneys, they didn't grow up in the, you know, the computer era. They had to learn how to use a computer. You know, when they first started their career, there wasn't this type of technology. There wasn't a lot of typing. Now, I don't know Guzman's age, but I just assume, you know, I've seen this before in my own career where an attorney's secretary or legal assistant is literally much more than that. So to me, it seems like just from the description, Ashley was his secretary, personal and work, his paralegal. She basically just did everything for him, like basically like his personal assistant. So some of the facts from the lawsuit says she managed the day-to-day business. She ran the IOTA account. In his other bank accounts, she maintained all his insurances, malpractice insurance, all these things. You know, when you're a law firm, when you run a law firm, you need malpractice insurance, and that's just to cover you. Say a client sues you and says you did something wrong, that's malpractice. Like I said, the court docs referred to her as his ride or die. Yeah, she handled everything. One thing I did want to explain is I mentioned that she managed his IOTA account. IOTA stands for Interest on Lawyers Trust Account, and is basically an account that lawyers hold to hold funds for their clients. So, you know, there's all sorts of rules and ethics surrounding those accounts. You're kind of acting as for lack of a better term, you know, an escrow agent. I did want to point that out because Guzman's IO2 account will come up again in this video. So I wanted you guys to know what I was referring to when I say that. Okay, back to the background. In May of 2019, Guzman finds out that he had been sued by a client for improperly withholding that client's funds. Remember I told you, you know, the lawyers sometimes hold the funds for their clients. And then on top of that, he found out that the same client that was suing him filed a grievance with the State Bar of Texas. So for those of you who don't know, the Texas State Bar is, you know, the organization that oversees attorneys, the licensing of attorneys, the discipline of attorneys, that sort of thing. So, you know, if you're having an issue, if a client is having an issue with a Texas lawyer, that's who they would complain to. So this client complained to the State Bar of Texas about Guzman and the issue with his alleged improper handling of the client's funds. So what happened was Guzman actually held approximately $197,000 of funds related to some real estate transaction for this client. It really didn't go into much detail on what exactly the funds were for. It just said real estate related. But for some reason, the client wanted the funds to be paid out to him in a series of transactions, not just one check. He wanted a series of transactions, right? So Ashley, as Guzman's, you know, paralegal and right-hand woman, was in charge of issuing those checks to the client and the series of checks. So she issued a series of 8 checks. Now, the last 2 checks that she issued to the clients bounced. Basically, you know, they bounced because there were insufficient funds. Guzman was totally shocked by this because Ashley had provided him copies of the cleared check. So, you know, he thought everything was fine. He wasn't even aware of, you know, the checks bouncing because he had copies of cleared checks, you know, says the complaint. Guzman, you know, in his attorney capacity, responded to the client's lawsuit, right? And he had Ashley, you know, file the response and all these things because she's his paralegal. That was her job, right? Then he asked Ashley to contact his malpractice insurer and let them know about the suit and to go ahead and, you know, get the attorney engaged and all that, the malpractice attorney. So that was handled. Ashley periodically updated Guzman. She basically said that the malpractice attorney was going to file, you know, to dismiss the case, that there was no case there because the funds had been paid. You know, they had the support, all those things, right? So later, Guzman learns that a summary judgment had been filed in the case. Basically, he lost the case. So he was just so confused because he's like, you know, I don't understand. The malpractice attorney was supposed to be handling it. Ashley then reassures him that she will handle it and get a call scheduled with the malpractice attorney and that she was on it. You guys, and don't forget that not only was there the malpractice suit, there was also the grievance. So Guzman also had to respond to the grievance to the State Bar of Texas. Like he had to explain, you know, what was going on, that the grievance was not, you know, proper because of XYZ, right? So he drafted a whole answer for the State Bar of Texas and had Ashley send it. Along with the response that he drafted, he had her send all the supporting documentation, you know, the cleared checks, you know, the correspondence, all of those things, right? Well, fast forward to February of 2020, Guzman finds out that he had been disbarred. And you guys want to know how he found out? He found out because some other tenants in the building that he owned, that he practiced, told him. They were lawyers as well. So he was shocked. He had no idea. He's like, how can I be disbarred? They informed him of, you know, that he lost that case, his malpractice case. And, you know, Guzman's just so confused because he had the file stamped copies of his filings. You know, Ashley had filed all the things and she was working with the malpractice attorney. He had no idea how he could have been disbarred. So Ashley says she's going to work on an appeal with the State Bar of Texas and filed a meeting and gave him these dates in which he had meetings regarding his appeal, you know, to get his license reinstated and all of these things. So what happened with that hearing that she had scheduled with the State Bar of Texas, it kept getting rescheduled, right? So I think it had been rescheduled 5 times. The last hearing was scheduled for April 29th, 2020. Now, the complaint doesn't really go into this, but when I saw these dates, these March, April dates for the hearing in 2020, I'm thinking, oh, that was during the pandemic. So, because that person, like, well, Guzman, like, why weren't you thinking, like, how did this keep getting rescheduled? But this was right into the thick of the beginning of the pandemic. So, you know, I can see why he might, you know, not have any suspicions about the fact that everything kept getting rescheduled. So as you guys can tell so far, there's just a series of things that are just happening that, you know, Ashley's supposed to be handling, that Guzman's just not sure about. You know, he's got a malpractice suit against him for funds that he allegedly improperly withheld when he has cleared checks. He has a grievance against him for the same thing with the State Bar of Texas. He's now being disbarred. I mean, bad things are happening. In addition to that, Guzman's new wife, he had an ex-wife and a new wife. His new wife received some letters from the IRS regarding his taxes. And so he's like, Ashley, call the accountant. I don't know what's going on. Set up a meeting. Ashley's like, okay, I'll set up a meeting with the accountant, because as far as he knew, the accountant had been handling, you know, his taxes for the past, you know, several years. So Ashley ensures Guzman that she'll take care of it. She set up a meeting with the accountant and Guzman for April 28th. So April 29th is when the alleged, you know, State Bar of Texas hearing was scheduled. And then now the meeting with the accountant to determine what's been going on with the tax returns is scheduled for April 28th. Stay tuned, those dates will matter. The morning of April 28th, Guzman wakes up, leaves for the office, everything's great. Throughout the day, he's texting his wife, but he's really short. You know, his wife is like, this doesn't sound like him. This is very weird. During the day also, the wife couldn't get Guzman on the phone. Like he would respond to text, but he wouldn't respond like to phone calls. She couldn't get him on the phone. Then he doesn't come home that night. So Guzman's wife, because they're all close, his new wife, his ex-wife, his daughter, they all know Ashley. They're all close. You know, like I said, she's his ride or die. Calls Ashley, asks Ashley, you know, is everything okay? I can't get him on the phone. He's texting, but it doesn't seem like him. He's being very short. So Ashley informs her wife, you know, he's having a really tough day. It was a really emotional day. There's a lot of angst and emotions and anger, confusion going on because of the practice closing, because he's gonna have to close his practice because he's disbarred. You know, you cannot practice law if you are not licensed. So as it's getting late, Guzman's wife is very nervous, but she has some sort of health ailments where she can't really see in the dark, so she can't drive to the office. So she asks Ashley, like, would you mind going to check on him? Ashley assures her that he's okay, not to worry, that she can't because she has family stuff to tend to, but just assures her that he's okay. So this was on April 28th that this all happened. This was the day that Guzman was supposed to talk to the accountant, right? The next day, April 29th, the day of the supposed hearing with the State Bar of Texas, the wife is calling Guzman again and cannot get him on the phone. His ex-wife and his daughter also tried to contact Guzman because they knew it was the hearing for the State Bar of Texas, so they wanted an update. They wanted to check on him because, you know, he was going through a really rough time with this disbarment. Guzman's daughter calls Ashley, you know, to check on her dad, see what's going on. Ashley, you know, goes into this whole spiel about how the office was closing, that Guzman blindsided her and told her that she would need to get a new job. She was telling Ashley she spent the whole day crying because she knew what she was gonna do. You know, she needed to get a new job. She had no idea that this was gonna happen, and, you know, all this stuff, right? Later on, it was revealed that Ashley actually already had another job lined up, you guys. She had a start date of the 27th of April. So she started a new job on April 27th, but told her new job that she needed a day off on April 28th and April 29th. So the daughter goes by the office because she's scared for her dad, and she finds him snoring extremely loud, like, and she can't wake him up. She tries everything to wake him up. She sees his face is bloated. He has vomit coming out of his mouth, so she calls 911. So he goes to the hospital. The doctors later say that it appeared that he had been poisoned because he had ingested antifreeze, large amounts of antifreeze. So because of the ingestion of the antifreeze and all the things that happened resulting from that, all the conditions that happened resulting from that, Guzman was in a coma for several days. Once he woke up, he was extremely suspicious of Ashley. He really thought she poisoned him. So now that he has these suspicions about Ashley, him and his family start to dig, and they find out all of these things, you know, pointing to Ashley and things that she allegedly has done. So they found out many of the files from the law firm were missing, had been destroyed, deleted, like crazy stuff, you guys. I'm gonna read you guys some of the stuff. On his office email system, there were a series of filters on Guzman's email. So any emails from his banks, the accountants, the State Bar of Texas were filtered out so he didn't receive them. Much of the firm's email correspondence was going directly to Ashley's personal email, you guys. They also have found out that someone attempted to open up a bank account in Guzman's son's name, using his name and his social security number, and attempted to deposit $20,000 in fraudulent payroll checks. The bank luckily caught it and contacted Guzman and his family. They sent them over copies of the fraudulent checks, and Guzman and his family said that the signature looked very similar to Ashley's handwriting. Also, they found out that Ashley had been using the IELTS funds and her firm credit card that was for firm expenses only for personal expenses. I'm talking hotels, trips, concert tickets, a photo booth, makeup, just personal things, you guys. So, you know, if you think back to the malpractice suit where the client claims those 2 checks bounced because the IELTS account didn't have enough money in it, you know, it kind of makes sense that if those funds were being diverted for personal things, then the funds would be missing. Guzman also found out his taxes hadn't been filed in years, despite having proof from Ashley that his tax documents had been filed. According to the lawsuit, she had delivered him files with the accountant's name and signature on it as if these tax documents had been filed. But the accountant confirmed that they hadn't done any taxes for that law firm in such a long time. Another discovery that they made is that the response to the State Bar of Texas grievance that Ashley claimed to have sent out was sent to a misspelled email address. They never received it. There was never a motion for a new trial. Nothing had ever been scheduled with the State Bar of Texas. So that April 29th date was completely made up. Guzman learned that he didn't even have malpractice insurance, let alone a malpractice attorney. You guys, Ashley had let the insurance lapse a long time ago, according to the complaint. The lawsuit states that there's proof that Ashley created a fake email pretending to be this malpractice attorney, but it was really her. So like I said, he never existed. And then last but not least, Guzman found out that Ashley had been disparaging his name to the other attorneys in their building. So she had told some of the other attorneys that he was abusing drugs, abusing alcohol, he was depressed, he was suicidal, saying that he had mental issues. I mean, all sorts of things about him to some of the other attorneys. And he had no clue. So as you guys can see, Guzman is accusing Ashley of basically ruining his life, ruining his practice, ruining his career, and trying to poison him, you guys. This is so crazy. So now that we have kind of the major background of the lawsuit, we can talk about the motion to dismiss. So like I said, Guzman sued Ashley and her husband. Ashley and her husband motioned to dismiss the suit. The motion to dismiss was denied. Ashley and her husband's attorney filed an appeal to that motion to dismiss, and now that's kind of where we get to hear where the motion to dismiss is now denied again. So Ashley and her husband's attorney filed the motion to dismiss, citing the Texas Citizens Participation Act. We'll call it the TCPA because it's so long, but citing that act, basically saying that the portion of the lawsuit that Guzman had against Ashley and her husband, the slander, libel, and the invasion of privacy should be dismissed because any statements made by Ashley or her husband were protected under the TCPA. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what each of libel, slander, and invasion of privacy is considered under Texas law. I think I mentioned this before in the video I did about Britney and Jamie Spears, is that, you know, these causes of action can differ state by state. So let's talk a little bit about what these mean under Texas law. Under Texas law, libel is a defamation expressed in written or other graphic form that tends to blacken the memory of the dead or that tends to injure a living person's reputation and thereby exposes the person to public hatred, contempt, or ridicule, or financial injury, or to impeach any person's honesty, integrity, virtue, or reputation, or to publish the natural defects of anyone and thereby expose the person to public hatred, ridicule, or financial injury. Essentially, libel is a written form of defamation. So with slander, it's essentially the same thing, except it's a spoken form. So libel written, slander spoken, okay? Next is invasion of privacy. So the Texas Constitution actually protects the privacy of an individual. So a person is protected from unreasonable intrusion, meaning that one person cannot intentionally intrude upon the seclusion, solitude, or private affairs of another by physical invasion of others' property or by eavesdropping on the other's conversation via wiretaps, microphones, or spying. Obviously, in modern day, this extends to computers, cell phones, laptops, those types of things. So in looking back onto the facts we talked about with the Guzman versus Ashley debacle, there's many instances described by Guzman in his lawsuit of ways that Ashley might be liable for any of these things, whether that be slander, libel, or invasion of privacy. I can leave a link to the full ruling by the court if you guys are interested in really seeing the gritty details, because there's a lot of stuff there, you guys. So I'll leave that in the description box, but obviously you see why he made those claims. Now back to the motion to dismiss by Ashley's attorney. They wanted to dismiss under the TCPA, basically saying that, hey, look, Ashley's freedom of speech is protected under all of this. So these libel and slander claims, Ashley was just exercising her right to freedom of speech. Then he went further to say that, hey, the statements made by Ashley, they were really just statements of matters of public concern. They were saying, hey, this is an attorney. If the attorney is doing these things, if he does have a drinking problem or drug abuse or harming clients or whatever, this is a matter of public concern. So this should be dismissed because she was just making statements regarding matters of public concern, because this is improper conduct of attorneys and could lead to bad legal services and could harm the public. I mean, you know, they were basically trying to dismiss the claims under those arguments. However, the court did not buy it. The court did not agree with Ashley's attorney and said, hey, this is not a matter of public concern. Just because this person is a lawyer and they serve the public doesn't mean all of their personal matters are matters of public concern. The court specifically said that private disputes are not a matter of public concern. An attorney's practice of law and all rumors regarding an attorney's possible violation of disciplinary rule is not always a matter of public concern. Here, the statements Guzman made did not involve a public figure or a matter of interest to the community. They were statements made that affected matters personal to Guzman and his family. The court went on to say, like, hey, Ashley said that he was abusing alcohol, he was abusing drugs, but she never even reported that. So if it was a statement of public concern, she would have reported it to the proper authorities, you know, the State Bar of Texas, and she did not. So the court did not agree with her attorney and they denied the motion to dismiss. So the show is going to go on, and you guys already know I'm going to be following this because, again, this is insane to me, and this is a testament to all my lawyers out there that you need to be involved in your affairs, especially for my solo practitioners. You know, it's not uncommon for you to have a right-hand man or woman in your practice, someone that you trust, that you handle everything. But a person should be on top of their own practice. They should be on top of their own matters, and you should be apprised of everything that's going on. You know, it is okay and it's common for you to lean on support, but you also should have your hand in things and check on things periodically. So I think this is a testament and a lesson learned. So the latest on these appeals were just last week. So it's kind of pretty much present day, but just an update. Guzman did get his license reinstated, so he is actually practicing again. No charges have been filed against Ashley in relation to the alleged poisoning of Guzman, and Guzman has spoke out about that, and he believes that the San Marcos police should be doing more. So we'll see if anything comes out of that. But Ashley did get arrested by the San Marcos police for theft of over $300,000. So there is some criminal stuff going on here too, guys. So comment down below if you guys want me to keep doing updates on this case as things arise. This is just such a crazy story, you guys. I had to share. Please like this video if you enjoyed this content and want to see more of this content, and comment down below if you were so shocked when you were hearing all this stuff. And again, I will leave the link to the court opinion in the description box if you guys want to check it out yourself. It is so crazy. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I will see you in the next video. Peace.